Fans, and welcome to Sports Chat on this cold March evening.
Cold and snowy. Doesn't feel much like spring, but spring sports are just about to kick off.
Right.
All the practices were canceled today. I know that softball and I think baseball have some scrimmages planned this week. Certain softball had one planned for tomorrow, I believe, but it was canceled because of the death of a player's mother. But they have one Thursday against Claiborne County. I'm pretty sure the baseball team will have one later this week as well. First track meet is next Tuesday, I think.
The 9th, I think is what.
I believe that's what Gracie has said. And they're usually on Tuesdays. I know it's early next week. So
We need to get a hold of Shane and find out when the first soccer stuff is. But it's coming up too.
This is the thing about spring weather in March is that it may be sunny and 75 for your sporting event, or it may be, today is 25 degrees and snow and freezing rain and all that. That's the big thing about that. And that's, Ann Browning taught us that about track meets many years ago. It's that you keep extra shoes in your car, keep extra clothes in your car. You never know. You might need 2 layers. You might get soaked in the rain. You never know. And that's just the nature. And track meets, unless it's coming a thunderstorm or the roads are too icy to get there, they have the track meet, rain or shine.
Right. And then speaking of track, I was at the gym earlier today. Ran into Rusty Provins going through his training regimen. He's looking to once again bring that state title back to the area, Cumberland Gap.
I believe Rusty is committed to Wake Forest already.
Yep. I saw Tucker Kane working out today. He, of course, is already signed to play baseball at Bryan College. So that's the athletes were still working today, even though there was no practice.
Yeah. Lots of other news. I mean, it'll be, probably next week before we start having results from the Campbell County getting things started. But other sports, big giant win over Vanderbilt this weekend by Tennessee. I'm still not happy with Conzo Martin. I don't think the program's where it needs to be, but it's always good to beat Vanderbilt by the largest margin in school history. He had one in him last year. Put that 30-point beating on Kentucky, and then went out and lost to Georgia the next week or two. So that didn't really. Still a sweet win. And sweet win over Vanderbilt. Beat down. Got to play at Auburn tomorrow or Wednesday night. Will we win? You never know with this team. It may beat a good team by 40 points. It may lose to a bad team. You just never know. That's what the problem is with the whole situation.
Zero consistency, even though the talent is just
Tennessee's
off the wall there.
On the bubble. I mean, Joe Lenardi has them in as a 12 seed in his bracket playing a play-in game. Jerry Palm, who's really good at this for CBS, he has Tennessee out. They're among the last 4 out. It's almost going to come down if Tennessee can beat Auburn, which I say that's an if. You never know on the road with this team. If they can beat Missouri next Saturday at home, they're in, probably so, as long as they've beaten Auburn. Missouri loses, Missouri's probably going to be out. If Missouri wins, Missouri's probably going to be in, Tennessee's going to be out. It's basically a play-in game between those two teams, provided they don't have a stumbling loss. I think Missouri plays Texas A&M, and Texas A&M's awful.
And, of course, there's always that off chance one of them screws around and wins the tournament and gets in.
I'm not going to count on that happening for Tennessee. It's not happened in 35 years. Since I think they've restarted the tournament in 1979, and Don DeVoe won it with the first team that he coached here. And Tennessee's not won the tournament since then.
Speaking of that team, of course, this was the big Dale Ellis jersey retirement day. It was a
Yeah, Dale had quite a speech. A lot of it about La Follette's own Ed Bailiff, who was a big booster for UT sports, and
traveled every game with John Ward during basketball.
He was John Ward's official driver for basketball and football games both. He would drive John Ward to and from the games. Him and John Ward really good, close friends. I remember Bailiff's department store used to be in downtown La Follette for many years. And
of course, then they had the one at the mall that had the shiny walls.
Yeah,
I love the shiny walls.
Yeah, you really like to poke on those shiny walls and maybe break the panels.
It's like you know me.
But good moment. I said a big win. Saturday was a spectacular day for college basketball because of that thumping of Vanderbilt. And Kentucky lost to South Carolina.
Yeah.
The worst team in the SEC, last place, South Carolina, 3-12 12 in the league, I believe, when they beat Kentucky, or Kentucky beat them the other day. Just awful, awful team. Kentucky fans are, of course, in an uproar.
Yeah, how's the message board after
Well, there's
that?
nothing better than reading Cat's Paws, going to Rupp's Rafters on the Cat's Paws site. Oh, they were convinced after last year when they went to the NIT and lost in the first round, convinced that they were going 40-0. That was the whole thing. You don't worry. You know, I mean, I know it's bad to lose in the NIT, but we got all these NBA players coming in next year. We're going 40-0, 40-0. That's all you heard. They made shirts before the season started, 40-0 shirts, which now you can find pictures occasionally on Facebook or message boards where stores in Kentucky are selling those shirts for $1 each up there. Just big racks full of them, though, perfection, that they had just made preemptively because they're Kentucky.
Any other sport, those would be shipped to the third world.
Extremely
right now.
arrogant like that. They just decided they were going 40-0 and wouldn't hear anything else. But now they're, I think, 20-9 and probably going to make the tournament no matter what happens. But they thought a number 1 seed, and in the last few weeks they've been spiraling down. They've lost 3 of their last 4 games, and had just a last-second miracle putback against LSU to keep from losing 4 in a row. And I think 2 or 3 of those were at home. Typical Kentucky, they shot, I want to say 45 free throws, 42 free throws, something like that in the game. South Carolina shot 30 or so. And that was with Kentucky fouling them in the final minutes. Plus, Kentucky had multiple technical fouls called on them, which gave them multiple free throws from that. At one point, Kentucky shot 39 free throws to 12 for South Carolina. So naturally, the panel on Rupp Raptors blamed the loss on the referees.
The vast SEC conspiracy is screwed
They are
Kentucky.
convinced that literally they shoot the most free throws in the league. They shoot twice as many free throws as their opponents in a given game on average. Convinced the refs hate them because they can't get a fairly called game. It's hilarious. Go to Rupp's Rafters, just Google Rupp's Rafters and read their page. It's on the Cat's Paws site. Greatest stuff you'll ever see. There's one thread on there. We need to fire Calipari and bring in Pearl. Now, if that happened, I would probably jump off the bridge down here onto the train tracks. Hopefully hitting my head first because I wouldn't have to see that. But it's hard times in Lexington all of a sudden, and Cal's not as popular. They're starting to question the one-and-done strategy. And can't get any kind of synchronistic team. I didn't think they were going to be that good. I never was impressed with the Harrison twins like so many people seem to be. And they're having bad guard play right now. And their offense consists of driving it into the traffic and hoping somebody fouls it.
Which
Throw it up
happens a lot.
I mean, it does happen a lot. I mean, they had got 30 points from the free throw line out of 33 they'd scored in the game at one point against South Carolina. They were terrible. They were shooting like 12% from the floor for the game, but making all the free throws they kept getting. And that's the only thing that kept them in the game as much as it did. But yeah, Bruce Pearl arrived in Lexington. I would just give up the whole thing right there. Maybe Calipari will get tired of them and go to somewhere else. I don't know. They'll get him another Billy Gillispie type. Not that Calipari had 10 losses last year, and they're sitting on 8 right now, I believe, and they have to play Florida still at Florida. They have to play in the NCAA tournament and the SEC tournament. Unless they win those two, they're going to have over 10. Now, they used to have a nickname for Tubby Smith. They called him 10-Loss Tubby. So that's why they had to fire him, because it was unacceptable to lose 10 games in a season in Kentucky. What are they going to do now? Calipari's lost 10 games 2 seasons in a row. And Tubby Smith not only made the NCAA tournament every year at Kentucky, he advanced in the NCAA tournament every year at Kentucky and won a national championship. Calipari, he lost in the first round of the NIT.
to his alma mater, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't. It was to I don't think he went to Robert Morris or whoever it was.
No, Robert Morris is in the town he grew up in.
No, maybe so.
There was a storyline to that game.
It could have been. The storyline was mainly to be that it was a terrible team that Kentucky lost to. And I thought that was funny. But yeah, it's great. There's nothing gives me more pleasure. The only thing I would like to better is if we had beaten Kentucky and Vanderbilt had lost to South Carolina. That would have been a little bit better, but it's still just great as it was. I mean, the fact that it's the last place team. And to read the end game thread that they're watching while the game's happening and how upset they all are, nothing makes me better. I pretty much every Kentucky fan I've ever met is a terrible job. If you like Kentucky basketball and you're listening, you're probably awful.
It's true. And frankly, if you like Kentucky basketball, I bet you're an Alabama football fan.
Well, there used to be that great, since we live on the Kentucky border, the great number of, I'm a Tennessee football but Kentucky basketball fans. I mean, I don't get that. That's like saying, you know, I love Osama bin Laden and Ariel Sharon's my hero, and loving you know, Israel and Iran both at the same time. It doesn't make any sense to me. But, you know, if that's somehow how you can justify yourself, I guess do whatever you need to, but you're probably awful.
Yeah, you know, it's just like, well, you know, I like Kentucky in basketball and Alabama in football and Cal in baseball. Who are these people?
They love the Miami Heat. Probably huge Seattle fans this year. There's a bunch of terrible people. Had some exciting hockey action over the weekend. The big outdoor game in Chicago.
Love watching the outdoor hockey.
Played in a blizzard at Soldier Field. It's nice to watch. We saw that they had to go out and plow snow off the ice during the game because it was snowing so hard in Chicago. Pittsburgh Penguin, terrible gravel-voiced announcer off CBS. Can't remember his name right now. He's a big homer for Pittsburgh teams.
And hates Chicago.
He hates Chicago teams too. He always talks a lot of trash about the Blackhawks and how great the Penguins are. The Blackhawks thrashed them 5-1. Let's destroy the Penguins. And I would say that the Blackhawks probably still the favorite to win the Stanley Cup this year. Got a high output offense and pretty good defense as well. But if you can score the puck a lot in hockey and make goals, you put a lot of pressure on the other team to keep up with you. It's, you know, that's how the Blackhawks win. Even though Boston played good defense against the Stanley Cup, and the games were fairly low scoring for Blackhawks standards, Boston just couldn't keep up with the frenetic pace that.
Hockey is one of the exceptions to the rules. You talk about defense winning championships. In hockey, you got to control the offense. Have to.
I mean, you got to have a good goaltender in hockey, and you can stay in games if you've got a great goaltender if you can't score. But it's hard to win games and go out and you have to go out and win the playoffs. You can get into shootout situations in some of them, but in the playoffs they go to extra periods and play it that way. But the Blackhawks, over a course of a series, because the Blackhawks play so fast, I believe it just wears other teams out pretty badly, and that's why they were able to take Boston out. Boston's a very good team, great goaltending, but they were able to get them in 6 games last year. And I wouldn't be surprised to see that be a repeat Stanley Cup again this year. Because they're both pretty good this year. Blackhawks near the top of the division, and so come playoff time, I expect them to be right there. There's some teams playing some good hockey this year. None of the Canadian teams, of course.
Never.
Canadian teams don't believe in playing good hockey for whatever reason, much to the great regret of the White North. Luke's probably upset about that.
Well, Luke does love him some Great White North. Also, you know, of course, baseball spring training is going on pretty hot and heavy right now.
Not a baseball fan personally.
You know, the Ice Bears have done some great stuff this season. Let me tell you something that I find kind of impressively bad but sad at the same time. TNA was in Knoxville last night. They drew less fans than our cancer benefit show did at East Lafollette.
Yeah, TNA is pretty much dead. I mean, if Vince McMahon set out to kill wrestling a few years ago with everything he did, he pretty much has done it. When a competing level of wrestling, I mean, it's not like TNA is your local show guys coming out.
No, I mean they
have a national TV show on still every week.
Right, but it still gets roughly 1 million viewers per week.
These are guys that are professionals and big name professionals.
Pretty talented guys, a lot.
Good wrestlers for the most part, but I think that just general interest in wrestling is almost over with now.
It is. It breaks my heart.
It's one of the all-time lows. I mean, it's always been a very popular thing. I mean, it doesn't get good ratings on cable. USA abandoned, they're not willing to pay the money that Vince wants anymore. And if Vince wanted extra money, he's trying to pay off the network. He's starting on his own. But what motivation does USA, or NBC basically owns USA, what motivation do they have to come out and pay a bunch of extra money with Vince going to be putting his own competing content on the air all the time of, frankly, a much better product? Who wants to go and watch Monday Night Raw when you can watch Monday Night Raw from 20 years ago?
Yeah, when it was good.
Or watch the NWO storyline, or watch WrestleMania 6, or Starcade '89.
Watch the '85 storyline that was going on.
Who wants to watch new wrestling when you can watch that? It caused a bunch of providers to drop their pay-per-views.
Neither satellite provider carries WWE pay-per-views anymore.
Why? Who's ever going to order one from them anyway? Who's going to pay $30 or $60 for WrestleMania? You can pay $9 a month if you're a big enough wrestling fan to get the WWE network and get the pay-per-view for free. So I don't know, Vince, I guess he made a lot of money, but he pretty much stomped out interest in wrestling on a lot of levels. And I don't care to watch it anymore. It's about like baseball on the level of watchability to me. NBA, LeBron's playing Batman. They shut that down this week though, with his all-black mask.
Right.
We have the good Dr. Mars in the house. He's from down in Miami. I don't know how he feels about LeBron anymore, but Burton, our director and longtime Chicago fan, pretty much agrees with me and Patrick and almost everybody else. We can't stand LeBron.
Not a fan at all.
They did put quite a beating on Oklahoma City, which I found unfortunate, but that's when LeBron got his nose broke. Oklahoma City strangely came out, got Russell Westbrook back, I don't know if it's just working him into it, and lost 3 games in a row immediately. It's rare that when your all-star level point guard comes back and you go on a losing streak. Hopefully they get that worked out. The Bulls picked up Jimmer Fredette, former BYU sharpshooter. Apparently made a lot of Chicago fans happy, what I've been reading about it. And the Bulls are amazing. Tom Thibodeau must be the best coach in basketball. And
yeah.
They lose their star player. They trade off Lou Alding, another star player. Still got them in contention for the playoffs, and not even the 8th, 6th, 5th, 6th seed level right now. And it's just amazing. You can lose everything that he loses, and then Joakim Noah steps up. Carlos Boozer starts playing really well. It's not that they played poorly anyway, but to lose your all-star player and then your second leading scorer both on the same team in the same year, and to come out and be in 5th place, 6th place still, is pretty darn great. If he could ever get Derrick Rose back, and we've got a train going by, get Derrick Rose back and add a star player, some speculation maybe that they would add Dwayne Wade from Miami after this year, because Miami's going to implode due to massive salary cap. Some reckon LeBron James himself may go there. I don't know if many people would like that at all. But we'll see where they end up. I think that Thibodeau's such a good coach, though. If the Bulls could ever get their star players on, they'd probably win the East and unseat the Heat. Pacers technically had the best record, but they got a great coach as well. If they can hold on and hold home court advantage, maybe they can take the Heat out in a 7-game series. Who knows? Quite a while to go yet in the NBA. It'll be the middle of summer, seems like, before it's going to end.
I also got to say this little self-promotion. We're only about 3 weeks away from having a semi-pro home game here.
Yeah, that league's coming together pretty nicely.
We have our jamboree, not this weekend, but next.
Pretty highly attended scrimmage that you all had up there a couple of weeks ago.
That was moved at the last minute. And there were plenty of people I talked to that showed up at La Follette. I
would think there were still probably 80, 100 people there to watch it. Kind of surprised me that it would be that big of a crowd for a scrimmage.
So our first game is going to be at Jacksboro Middle School. We're going to be playing several at Lake City, several at Jacksboro, maybe a couple of at Livesey, because we got a lot of folks from Claymore County.
And if you're not in the convenient area, you can go to Mingo County and take that one in.
That's true.
Mingo. They may not come back from Mingo County.
that may be John flying solo on sports chat after that.
Mingo County's a rough neighborhood. Other football, the draft's coming up, getting ever closer. It's the last big weekend in football until, to me, fall camp. The mini camps I don't care that much about, but lots of teams are starting to make moves, speculate whether they're going to trade or not.
It's about time for the franchise deadline, too, if they're going to tag somebody.
Bears, talking about franchising Henry Melton maybe, or getting rid of him. They're not sure yet. Cowboys, jettisoning off DeMarcus Ware almost assuredly. That he wants $16 million. Jerry Jones doesn't want to pay him $16 million, which he's not did much of anything the last 2 years. in the end, it's one of the few moves I'll agree with Jerry on if he actually does cut him, unless DeMarcus takes a pay cut. You have to clear up salary cap. I mean, I don't agree that being in this situation because they give Tony Romo too much money, but neither here nor there. Detroit hitched its wagon up to Matthew Stafford and gave him a giant contract here the other day. So, however they feel they can fare with Stafford, which is, frankly, with him and Calvin Johnson, should be great, but they've sucked it up the last few years, inexplicably.
Manning passed his physical.
Yeah.
Clear him to return for another year.
Every year may be his last, as long as he feels like keeping on playing. You never know. Denver needs some help on defense to be able to manage to actually stop anybody that can throw the ball at all or run the ball in Seattle's case. Champ Bailey's really old, got to improve in the backfield defensively over him. He was a great player for a long time, but he's not anymore. Cleveland probably going to curse the Central Florida quarterback, unless Houston does. There's a big speculation Houston's going to take Johnny Manziel, but
for the hometown popularity thing.
Lately, I can't remember. It's the quarterback for Central Florida. I can't remember his name right now, but well, some of the draft projections I saw have him going first overall to Houston, and they're going to pass, and then Cleveland will take Johnny Manziel with the 5th or 6th pick, which is right around the time they have. I'm sure he go to Cleveland. Cleveland will be terrible, but they always are. Why you might as well not spend a bunch of money on a quarterback if you're going to be awful anyway. Especially one that, to me, has enough question marks, and Johnny Manziel does. Cleveland had a decent quarterback last year until he got hurt. They were playing pretty well, won a couple. I think they won 3 or 4 games. And he was putting some big passing numbers up, hurt his knee, and they've just given up on him completely. They're Cleveland, they're always terrible. Tennessee, Juwan James had been projected to go in the first round, and Tiny Richardson close to it. I don't know, I guess the post-draft camp, their numbers were bad or something, I'm not sure. But
yeah, the combine wasn't kind to those guys.
Tiny has fallen out of the top 50, I'm seeing on most projections, and James is around 50th, so that put him in the second round somewhere.
A lot of Tiny's stuff, a lot of his high predictions, it was sort of the way he handled Clowney, but his combine numbers were not impressive.
Yeah, I mean, he fell down the boards a lot. Both of them did.
Like his 225, his reps at 225. I got 2 guys on my team that can do 225 for that many reps.
Well, he's about 6'6" and 350, and been on the college weight program for 4 years, so he's got nobody to blame but himself.
Yeah, I mean, he did 22 reps, which that sounds impressive, but like I said, I haven't
it is impressive, but
yeah,
not for NFL offensive line.
I have two guys playing for me that can do that.
I saw those NFL guys go out, all linemen, and go out and they can't put 35 or 36 up sometimes, and that's a lot of weight to push around. But unfortunately, their stock fell a little bit. Who knows how it'll work out for them in the pros? Tennessee usually has a pretty good history of offensive linemen that play for years. I saw just the other day, the blast from the past, they said that Scott Wells is finally, he's been playing for St. Louis, that he's finally, maybe St. Louis may have to cut him to make some cap room, but you look back, Scott Wells was kind of unheralded out of high school, 13, 14 years ago, and ended up starting for Tennessee from his freshman year on and has a long NFL career under his belt. There's a lot of Tennessee players out there like that. But that's about it, the NFL. The next thing will be the draft coming up here in a few weeks. You start hearing about teams making moves, whether they're going to trade or not. Dallas will make a really head-scratching, stupid pick, I'm sure. A lot of projections I saw, and it'll be lucky. So where I think the linebacker from Alabama, I can't remember his name right now, but I think that I saw a top 100. He's rated the 5th or 6th best player in the draft, but they said Dallas could probably get him at 15 or 16 because no one else has needs at linebacker. Alabama linebackers, though, have not been doing as well in the NFL as it looked like they would in college lately. So we'll see how it works out. I'm sure if they draft him, he'll probably try to convert him to fullback or something, or somebody Tony Romo to throw to.
Well, absolutely. I mean, it's all about that offense in Dallas right now. And that's
Actually,
really working well for them.
I've got high hopes for Dallas with the new defensive coordinator. He was coach under Lovie Smith with the Bears. And they booted Monty Kiffin to the side because Monty's 150. I don't know why.
Monty Kiffin died 10 years ago.
Just
People just don't realize it.
Jerry Jones doesn't want to admit he made a mistake by hiring Kiffin, so he gave him the old sideways promotion. And and moved the guy from the Bears up. And his defenses are great in Chicago. He's part of great defensive teams in Chicago. He's a good coach. I think that the defense almost has to be better because it was worse in the NFL last year, so where else do you got to go? I think it will get better. Maybe draft a few players that actually help on defense instead of drafting all offense. That's about all the hope I got. I mean, it's been 19 years since we won a playoff game in Dallas. So, at one time, people would call you a bandwagon fan. I've been a Dallas fan since I was like 5 years old.
Yeah.
But one time, people might have called you a bandwagon fan. They can't call you a bandwagon fan now when you've been this bad for this.
If you're a bandwagon Dallas fan right now, you obviously don't understand the meaning of the term bandwagon fan.
Because it's not only a bad franchise to follow from the point of view that you don't make the playoffs and win games in the playoffs. You're stuck with an owner and his son who are complete idiots, and you know that it's really not going to get better for this foreseeable future unless both of them die in a plane crash. That's about it. That's about your only hope that the team may get better. And I don't think, oh, you're a horrible person for thinking that. Well, I care about football. I don't care about the Joneses, so there's that.
Oh, well, fans, that's about the end for this week. Next week we'll have you some spring sports news, some more football news, hopefully some good UT basketball news, probably not. But until then, we'll see y'all next week.